Yo, what's good? I haven't heard that joint in a minute.
Man, that song was crazy. Like as a kid, I remember
Whew.
that. Man, that song slapped.
Whew. Who was that? Yo, who was on that joint again, yo?
It was you and Nas on a Green Lantern mixtape.
Oh yeah. Word, word, word.
And do
Yeah,
you
that
remember? Do you remember like how that came about? Because I have a question about that actually.
Green Lantern is from Rochester. Um, Green Lantern is from Rochester, and you know what I'm saying, he used to come to the city a lot. You know what I'm saying, like he used to play a lot of parties up here. And I think I first actually met him through Mission Me, to be completely honest. You
Crazy.
know, yeah. So Green Lantern has been the homie for a minute. So we did a lot of work together, and he's a disgusting producer. You know what I'm saying? He's also just a good dude, but like he's a crazy producer. So a lot of different DJs that I met over the years, I stayed really cool with. You know what I'm saying? So whenever they were doing mixtapes or whatever projects, like they call me up, they knew that they would, you know what I'm saying, they would get the verse back like same day or the day after.
No, I remember that, and I remember it being super crazy to hear you on a song with Nas. Like Nas is my favorite MC, and I remember
Hmm.
that being like super crazy. And I want to ask you, do you remember? Because I think Nas respit that verse later on a song with Puffy and CeeLo, and I was like, did that come? I was like, I think the Cardinal one was first, but I was kind of confused. I was like, I didn't really, because then at the end, if you notice how he says, two of New York's biggest, you used to hate us, now you love us. So it made sense for the Diddy thing, hate me now. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But he was talking about Green originally.
Yeah.
So I was always wondering like what happened with that. Or was it
That
because it was mixtape or like
yeah. It's just mixtape. Like that happens all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's some people that spit verses. Me, most of the time, I'm very like, not always, because I'm probably gonna jinx myself, but a lot of the times, like mixtape stuff, I just write for the mixtape. You know what I'm saying? Like when we used to go anywhere, like DC, just trying to think of the places where they used to kidnap me and trap me in studio. So many different places. Like when we go there, I just write verses on the spot. You know what I'm saying? Just so that every DJ had their own joint.
word, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, shit. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. Man, there's so much I want to get into. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know you got some valuable advice for people watching, and I know that there's some amazing stories you got to share with us, man. So, yeah, if you don't mind, man, I just want to start at the beginning. Like, what were you like as like a kid growing up in Flemington Park? Like, what can you tell us about that kid and your surroundings?
Um, Hold on, and I just want to make sure that my the signal is cool. Growing up in Flemo, I don't know if I had a particularly unique experience. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up in Flemo, loving hip hop just seemed, sorry, not love and hip hop, but loving hip hop, being a fan of it was just regular. You know what I'm saying? Like all of my brethren from the neighborhood, like we were all into hip hop, like hardcore. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, um, I remember anytime any one of the crew would go to New York and come back, like, it's almost just like a rite of passage. You got to come back with the cassette, you know what I'm saying, that you take from New York radio. So just growing up, like, that's how we were always up on whatever the latest was as a, you know what I mean, as a kid. So whether that was like, the legendary Juice Crew, just trying to think, like there's so many songs that I heard for the first time in the park. You know what I'm saying? Like literally like on the basketball court, somebody would just bring back a tape, put it in the boom box, you know what I'm saying? And then we just listen. You know what I'm saying? We would just listen and whatever the joint was, like we used to just memorize it. And we used to, you know what I mean? We used to just pretend like we were our favorite rap heroes. So just regular little kid stuff. You know what I'm
I
saying?
remember
But
those days. A lot of the people watching now might not remember like stopping the tape and writing the lyrics down and then rewinding it and doing all that shit like before CD, before MP3,
mhm.
before any of that shit.
Yeah, and I mean for us, like it wasn't even about, the thing is, like, sometimes when you lived in a neighborhood, like the tapes would have to circulate. So you didn't always have the time to do all that. So I think what it was is like we would just listen to songs on repeat until we just memorize it. And I think for me, the first time, like, rest in peace, my pops was a DJ. So I grew up around music. So sometimes, like, when you're literally like just born into it, you don't even understand that it's a thing. Um, but I think, what was dope was specifically with a cassette. I remember going to my cousin's house and he played Roxanne's Revenge. And I remember literally just staring at the wheel spinning around on the cassette. And I was literally mesmerized. And I was like, yo, that's when I knew like hip hop that was it. You know what I'm saying? Like that feeling, I never lost it since then.
Yeah, I remember if you used to put like you could tape over actual like cassettes of people's albums if you put like duct tape on the bottom, those
Yeah.
two little holes, so that
Yeah.
it couldn't pop through. Like I remember doing that
Hmm.
shit on like if it was a cassette I was just played out, then I wanted something new, you could do that. I
Of
remember those
course.
times.
Of
Yeah,
course.
man. But yeah, man. So you started early. Like I think I read something. You started rapping at 8 years old. Was this around the time you were going by the name Kool-Aid?
No, that was I mean, here's the thing, like I said, just growing up in the neighborhood, we all used to rap. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't a thing that I took seriously. Like at those times, the thing that people can't understand probably in this day and age is there was a time when like rap was not a thing. Like we grow up with it literally now with it being on radio, it's on TV, it's in movies, it's in commercials and all this crazy stuff. Like when I was a kid, rap was not like some respected dope thing that everybody wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? Like rap was just something like if you were into it, you were into it, but it's like put it this way, especially here in Canada, like where I grew up, we had to listen to rap. It only came on the radio two specific times and one time in particular. Saturdays from 1 to 4 is when it used to come on a historical program on 88.1 CKLN, used to be called the Fantastic Voyage program with Ron Nelson. That was the time that everybody, basically when other kids were out playing, I was inside with my cassette taping that radio show. So growing up, that's what I did. And then, other shows started to come about little by little. Mastermind, when he was mad young, he had a show on 105.5 up at York University. So up at the university here on that college radio show, he had a program. And then later on, CIUT 89.5, they had a show that was Saturday nights from I think it was like 8 to 10 or 8:30 to 10. So it's like growing up, like if you were into hip hop, you know what I'm saying? It's like there was only a couple places where you could actually go to hear it living in Canada, And it's like in terms of hip hop videos, the only show that we ever had when I was a kid, there was a show called Soul in the City with Michael Williams. And Soul in the City played mostly like 90% R&B, but like you'd pray that he played like one or two hip hop videos in that. You know what I'm saying? So that's literally, in this country, that's literally all we had. So anybody that was into it, like you weren't into it by accident. Some people are like, oh yeah, I really like that song. Nah, be like you were either into the culture or you would have missed everything.
You had to seek it out. You had to go find it if you wanted to be into it.
Absolutely. But I think that's the beauty. I use an analogy all the time. If you find $100 bill on the ground, right, you might pick it up and be like, oh, I bet this is dope. And you might be like, yo, you might be with the homies and be like, yo, let's go to the bar. You know what I'm saying? I got everybody's rounds, you know what I mean? Go drink and have fun or whatever. But if it takes you an hour to make $1, when you make $100, it's going to feel a lot different because you know that it took 100 hours, you know what I'm saying, to put in to get that same $100. So the effort that it takes to get something and to achieve it, it makes you appreciate things differently. So for us, in order to be real fans, even as little kids, like it was mad work, you know what I mean, just to get this much return for it. And I think that's why the love is different because we understand how important it was and how lucky we were to have access to hip hop.
I remember it feeling like a little secret between like just a secret group. Like when I was coming up and we heard it, it felt like our little secret. then obviously like it transformed into some worldwide commercial thing. Do you miss it, like being that your little secret type of thing, or like are you happy that it is as big as it is now, and maybe there's more casual fans and people don't have to go looking like you once did?
A bit of both. You know what I'm saying? A bit of both. I think, and especially when talking about Canadian MCs and what we went through, it's not like, and no disrespect to them whatsoever, but it's not like any of my Canadian heroes were like mad rich and like world famous or whatever. So as a kid, that was never, it didn't seem like an option for us, or we knew if it was possible, it was barely possible. So when we were into hip hop and when we were doing what we were doing it just because we loved it. It's not that we thought, yo, you know what's crazy? Like one day, I'm gonna do a song with some famous African guy and I'm gonna be #1 around the world, or you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
when me and the homies were doing it, like, shout out to Shaw Claire, Marvel, Socrates, Y Look, Julie Black, Tara Chase, you know what I'm saying? Like the whole circle from back in the day, like we were doing it because, we loved it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was one of those things, like, some people may consider it corny now, but like, we were, doing ciphers every Friday. You know what I mean? Like, we would, you know, um, literally, like, somebody would buy the bags of weed. We'd go hook up at somebody's crib. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'd have like one or two blunts to share between everybody. You know what I'm saying? And like, literally, like, we used to just hold ciphers and, we used to have friendly battles to see who was the illest. And Shaw Claire and a dude named 12 Inch from our crew were probably the two illest freestylers. Like off the top, just sickening. 12 Inch was the best. Like he could freestyle the same way that most people write verses. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, like the point is that like the perspective that we had, it was a dream of ours. We just wanted our city to get on the map. And I think that's why, like, when I first got my deal, the first song that I did was Bacardi Slang, because I just wanted for people to yell out Toronto the same way that they yelled out LA or Brooklyn or wherever else around the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was really my dream, is I wanted for people to respect, my city and my country. And then when I finally got that opportunity, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, that was, at the time, I was like, yo, dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, we did it, not knowing the heights that eventually music would get to coming out of our country.
You said there wasn't many people to look up to. One, I'm assuming, was Maestro Fresh West back
Well,
in the day.
no, let me not say that. There was a lot of people to look up to, but what I'm saying is, you see now, you see people like, you have the Drakes, you got the Tory Lanez, Weeknd, Bieber,
Worldwide.
all these people who are like not just worldwide in terms of their celebrity and their reach, but these people have now gotten on the planes and in some cases surpassed some of the biggest musicians in the world. So this is a thing that a lot of times I say my generation, what we didn't do as much as much as we should have. I mean, I did as much as possible, but it's to be a bridge. You know what I'm saying? Because what's interesting is that I didn't have people to advise me in terms of maybe things that I should do. You know what I'm saying? A route that you should go, or people to mentor me that were people that had actually done it, that had actually seen certain successes, if you get what I mean. So I had a lot of community mentors and people that like were so important in my life. So big up to people like, John Bronski, Mastermind, Motion, Master T, Oren Isaacs. Like the thing is, I come out of a very strong community based mentoring system. So the only reason that I got to where I was is because I had people that looked out for me and definitely told me about a lot of things. But the only thing is that, when I got to certain levels where I started charting, I started doing all these different things globally, I didn't have anybody that could mentor me on a certain level until much later. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of had to like literally just go around with a machete and just chop down the forest as I was going through it. You know what I'm saying? And try and just clear that path.
Well, if nobody's done it to that point, then how are you supposed to look up to anyone? You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're figuring it out for yourself at that point.
And I mean, when I say I'm also a different kind of youth, I'm very observant. So one thing that I did was like, I was part of the crew and I saw, Socrates, his first deal was when he was in high school. He got signed to Warner Brothers LA back in like, might have been like 95, you know what I'm saying? So I saw what Sox did. I saw what Chaclair did, you know what I'm saying, when he got his deal and eventually ended up also, I guess they did some kind of partnership with Priority Records. So, I also got to observe that situation before, before it was time for me. So I was able to say, okay, I see what they did. Let me navigate a little bit to the left or let me navigate a little bit to the right. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the type of person that I was. Like, shout out to Mr. Morgan. I don't know what his title is at OVO. I think he's president of OVO or something. But, me and Mr. Morgan and Mayday back in those days, like, we literally were just like, our slogan was independent hustle with the major label muscle. So even though we were assigned to the majors, we still thought, very DIY, very do it yourself. And we were like, all right, cool. We got the resources of, at the time it was MCA, but we're like, how are we going to build our legacy ourselves? Because we never wanted to like depend on the label. You understand what I'm saying? Like we came from a time where in Toronto, basically my era, we came up, everybody we knew had their own independent record label. So whether it was Six Sense, Citizen Kane, G Knight, whether it was, Ghetto Concept, Frankenstein, Thrust, myself, Chaclair, Socrates, there were so many people, Brass Monkeys, like everybody had their own independent label. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of ill that way because it was like, we'd look at what Groove a Lot Records did, or we'd look at what, whoever did, you know what I'm saying? And we just apply that to what we were doing. And that's how we were able to just continue to build. And I think that's probably why it turned me off so much. Like when I got a little bit older and people used to say, yo, Cardi, put me on, son. And I'm like, put you on, fam. You know how much work I did to, to get to where I'm at right now, bro? Like, I was never really that guy that was really into that whole put me on thing. You know what I'm saying? Even when I know it's later on down the road, but even when I connected with Akon, it was more of a partnership. You know what I'm saying? Because he's like, yo, everywhere I go around the globe, I see you. You know what I'm saying? I might be at the radio in London, you at the radio in London. I might have a show, wherever, and you there too. So he saw the grind that I was putting in. And, when he approached me to be a part of his label, them years later, he's like, yo, I look at it like forming the best all-star team. You know what I'm saying? You, T-Pain, Lady Gaga, bunch of artists that never came out also, Rock City, so many of us. Like, he's like, yo, I look at like taking all the best chess pieces, you know what I'm saying, to build the best empire together. So yeah, I never came from that school of thought to where I wanted somebody to put me on, you know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to earn the right to be on the same playing field as everybody else.
No, that's completely understandable, especially like, you being one of the first ones to break through that plane. Is it true that Hove, you had a deal on the table with Jay-Z around the same time as the Akon shit happened?
Yeah, and it's like, I wouldn't say a deal on the table. It's a so just dialing it back. I was in my studio one day and I get a call from my man Mark Jordan, and he had just recently been let go from Columbia Records. So he was traveling and he's like, yo, Cardi, what up? I'm like, we in the studio, me and the crew or whatever. And he's like, yo, I found this girl, this little girl. She's amazing. She's beautiful. She can sing, whatever. I'm like, dope. I was like, who is she? He's like, yeah, her name is Rihanna. And I was like, I don't know what kind of name that is, but all right, whatever. And I got on a few of her demos because he's like, yo, I got a meeting with Jay-Z in 2 weeks. I'm like, yo, cool, no problem, I got you. So everybody knows that story about how when they went for the meeting with Jay, how Jay literally locked the door and like they just kept negotiating that whole night, and like by the morning, you know what I'm saying, she was signed. So later on that year, Caravana time, which is, it's usually the end of July, beginning of August, He was it was him, Kanye, Tierra Marie, and Rihanna, and probably some other rock people, but only Tierra Marie and Rihanna were supposed to perform. So he was doing something called Rock the Banner that was in Toronto, and they linked Morgan, his manager at the time, John McNeely, had linked Morgan and said, "Yo, we want Cardi to come out and be a surprise special guest." I was like, "Yo, that's dope. That's fire. All right, cool." So when they finally came to Toronto, I remember it was dope because, when I first met him, he's like, "Yo, thank you so much for being, a part of this Rihanna project." And I'm like, "Thank me?" I was like, "Yo, respect." You know what I mean? Thanks for actually using the joints. So anyways, later on, shout out to Cypher Sounds, later on that day, when Showtime came and, I remember I came out and I just did what I usually do. You know what I'm saying? Like, anytime there's a show, I'm coming to murder that. So, we went out, and at the time we were like fire, fire, fire red hot. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to think, at this point in time, we had a few classics out, for the culture, like the Grind and Remix, Old Time Killing, like, what I'm saying? Just a bunch of songs at that point in time. Bacardi Slang, all of that. And of course, I'm in my hometown, so we came out and we just crushed it, and the city like showed so much love. It was one of my favorite experiences, like, in terms of doing a show. But I'm doing this in front of everybody: Jay Brown, Jay-Z, Kanye, whatever. And the funny thing was, I remember Jay wasn't even supposed to perform, but like, when I went out there and killed it, he was like, nah, 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 nah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he grabbed the mic and he's like, "Yo, Syph, throw on some joints." And yeah, he ended up performing. But I remember Jay Brown came over and he whispered something to Morgan. He's like, "Yo, whatever." And Morgan's like, "Yo, those guys want to offer you a deal. They want to sign you." I was like, "Word?" This is on stage, by the way. And I remember they were just going, they were going back and forth or whatever. And, we were just playing around with it for a while. But yeah, like, literally live on stage, you know what I'm saying? It was something to where they're like, "Yo, like, this kid's crazy." But, at the same time, as much as that, Hove is, I don't call people my hero because, like, especially musicians, just to be completely honest, because the music industry is filled with so many insecure people that use their music to try and pretend like they're somebody that they're not. And I understand, because music is escapism for a lot of us, you know what I'm saying? So maybe some of us in real life, maybe some of us are weak, some of us are short, some of us are whatever. We have our insecurities, but through music, you can be a superhero through that, which is cool. But it's like, for most people, when you meet them, they always say, like, don't meet your heroes, because a lot of times, you get let down. But I will say that Hove is, to this day, like, and I say it with no shame whatsoever, still one of my heroes, you know what I'm saying? So imagine now, the same time that Hove is offering me a deal, this new guy, Akon, who, is also, in terms of the culture and in the streets, like, he's killing it at this point in time, crushing it, because he's on everything. He's doing records with Jeezy, he's doing records with this person. And, the interesting thing was, like, when Akon flew me to Atlanta and we just, we hung out, he was like a bro. He was literally just like one of my bros. And, we got along super well. And, yeah, I think for that, like, I just prayed on it, and Convict felt like the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, the rest is history after that.
Man, that's an incredible story. Like, the greatest of all time, he wasn't even supposed to perform, and your show was that good. The competitive MC and him made you want to get on stage.
But let me tell you something that's even crazier.
Shout out to Freeway, by the way, who I just seen say something in here.
Okay, what up, Free? Hove, I remember, like, I had Syph had given me his number, and I texted him and I was just like, "Yo, thanks for the opportunity." And he was like, "Yo, you reminded me of KRS-One when you got on stage." And to me, that is the ultimate show of respect that you could ever give me. Because KRS-One, to me, like, there's a few people that shape me: Busta Rhymes, Michie Me, KRS-One, but, like, I don't know many people that can outdo KRS-One, if anybody, when it comes to a live show. So for him to say, "Yo, you remind me of a young KRS-One," like, that was like the ultimate at the time. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Jay, and I will say, you know, for many years after that, you know, every single year I would definitely clown him about his whack ass Nets. You know what I'm saying? And let him know that the Raptors is the squad. You know what I mean? So, you know, shout out to Jay, man. He's, you know, he's very much a legend. But yeah, man, for me, it just felt like Convict and Akon was the move. And yeah, to be honest, like it was a dope family. It was a dope thing to be a part of. And I mean, to this day, like it's not like I don't look at like all those Convict people as my family. That whole crew. You know what I'm saying? They're dope people.
Word, man. Do you remember the writing session or the session for Dangerous? Because I was listening to it, like just getting ready for this interview. I was going back listening to a bunch of shit. And the hook is like, I notice you noticing me. And then I'm like, damn, where do I know that from? And it's like a famous Will Smith off The Fresh Prince. I don't know if you remember that scene where he's like,
No.
he's like, you know how he always had the crazy pickup lines like on the Fresh Prince show. So he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
he's like, I noticed you noticing me, and I just wanted to put you on notice that I noticed you too, or something like
Ah,
that.
yeah,
So I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I wonder if there's like a story behind it where like Akon was like a Fresh Prince fan, or I wonder if there's just no
I
connection at
don't,
all. Like,
I don't know. And if I blow up the spot right now, you never know. Quincy Jones' son may come looking for some publishing. But you know what? You know what's wild? We wrote that at a time. I don't know if you remember, like when Akon was in a lot of controversy, like he was tossing kids off the
I
stage and
remember that.
all that wild stuff. Like I was on tour with him and Gwen Stefani in that year. I think it was '06. Might have been '06. Somewhere around there. Either '06 or '07. No, I think it was '06. Anyways, we were on tour and Akon had rented out Timberland's tour bus. So we were traveling across North America, but we used Timberland's tour bus because he had a studio in the back. So literally all the artists, like we'd be recording the whole tour. And to be honest, it was a rough time for me, bro. Like it was a time where, you know, I wasn't on a label, and you know, shows slowed up a little bit, so money started to get tight. But you know, at the same time, there was a lot of opportunity that was happening. I just had to, you know what I mean, hold the faith. And I'm a person that, you know, I'm a believer in God, so I really feel like at the time, like, you know, in order to really be a person of faith, like you got to believe that God has you going through these things for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, here's the thing, like going on that tour, most of the nights I didn't even have a hotel room. I had to sleep on the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like I just slept on the couch, you know, that long couch right
Yeah.
behind the driver. Like I had to sleep on that couch. And some nights were rough, but I remember at the very end, it was the last stop of the North American tour, which was actually in Vancouver. And it's funny because, you know, Chemo from the Rascals from Vancouver made the beat. So I remember Exit was the engineer at the time, and I said, "Yo, Exit, I'm going into the hotel to go shower in somebody's room, but yo, play this beat for Akon when he comes on the bus." He's like, "All right, cool, I got you." So I went, you know what I'm saying, took a shower, and I came back on the bus, and I remember, you know, Exit and Akon were just, you know, in the studio room on the bus, and I was like, "Yo, Exit, did you play the joint for him?" And Con's like, "Yo, what joint?" He's like, "Yo, play that for me, Exit." So he presses play on the beat, and I'm bopping to the beat. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at
Hook is
Con
done.
like, dope, right?
Is the
The
hook
hook,
done?
all of a sudden, the hook just came in. I was like, ah! So in that time that I went to go shower, which was like maybe half hour, you know what I'm saying? Like just shower and get ready. Like he heard the beat, wrote the hook, recorded it, everything. Like it was finished by the time I came back downstairs. So when that was done, I was like, you know what I mean? And I think I penned my joints in like 20 minutes. So yeah, that whole joint was done in like less than an hour.
So you say you were feeling discouraged like that whole time. In that moment where you were like, this whole shit is about to like change. Like my life is
No,
about to, you didn't know?
not at all. I was just, you know what I mean? I just thought it was a dope joint. I'll be completely honest. So I was still super discouraged at the time because it's like, imagine I'm touring all of North America. You're out there with Akon and Gwen Stefani and all this stuff, and you're broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, you barely have any money, you know what I'm saying? Like, to whatever, pay rent, sell bills, and all of that. So I remember when I got home and Mayday came to check me, like maybe a week after. Mayday and Mr. Morgan were managing me. And he was like, yo, play me some of the joints that you recorded on tour. And I played him a bunch of joints. And when I played him Dangerous, like his face was like, he's like, yo, did you back this up? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yo, fam, back this up right now. He's like, yo, copy this to, I think at the time it might have been like, I think the Pro Tools used to have these CDs that Pro Tools used to be on. So I remember he's like, yo, make 3 copies of that and give it to me right now. I'm like, yo, like, chill, what's going on? He's like, yo, this song is crazy. I'm like, you think so? Like, honestly, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that I didn't think it was dope, but I was just like, you know, I was like, yo, it's just a fire joint that we did. So, yo, it was absolutely, you know, it was absolutely crazy because everybody else, I think, knew it was a hit more than I did. It wasn't until much, much later, you know what I'm saying?
Wow, man, that's crazy. So it's like sometimes you just don't know, like in that moment. You know what I mean? That's crazy, man.
But you know what? I think sometimes the best songs come out that way when you just organically do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo,
Yeah.
literally, like the Grinding remix is one of my favorite things I ever did in life. But yo, to be honest, like when the FedEx came, because this is before sending verses online and all that. When the FedEx came, I literally, like, by the time I opened it and put the Pro Tools CD in, I think we had it back in a FedEx man's hand, like within 20 minutes. Like, as soon as we put it in the Pro Tools, like that whole verse, like it literally just poured out of me. I recorded it maybe 1-2 takes and we sent it back immediately because I met Pharrell in Toronto. He was in Toronto promoting NERD. And we just happened to be, it was funny, like I was going up the stairs about to go in this door and he was coming out the door at the same time. So I was just like, oh shit. I was like, yo, Pharrell, what up? Massive fan, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yo, like, I thought it was industry talk. He was like, yo, I'm a massive fan of yours too. I was like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what people say. But he was like, nah, man, that joint All Time Killing. He's like, yo, I love that. I was like, yo, bless, that's dope, man. I was like, yo, that shit that you just released with the clips. I was like, yo, incredible. You know what I'm saying? Like, fire. And he was like, yo, I would love for you to get on the remix. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. So we exchanged information, but literally like 2 days later, a FedEx came, you know what I'm saying, from Pharrell, and it was Grinding on Pro Tools, and I was like, yo, I can't believe this is going down. Like, I was so hyped. That's what I'm saying. Like, shout out to Shotclair's manager, Day. But yeah, like I was at Day Studios and like literally just murdered it and sent it back one time. And it's like that time in my career, bro, like it was a magical time. You know what I'm saying? It was a magical time because like for somebody coming out of this country, like having access to those type of people and even being a part of culture on a global scale, you know what I'm saying? Like it was very rare. Like, you know, Maestro, you know, he did crazy songs with Showbiz, you know what I'm saying? Michie Me, she had done songs with KRS-One and those guys like way back in the day. So there had been definite, you know, people that were rocking. But I mean, like on that kind of level, it was so wild at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like to be able to, I was trying to think, you know, do songs with Timberland and Pharrell and Pharoah Monch and Busta and Janae and, you know, going on tour with 50 Cent and having 50 Cent come to my house at Easter. I'll tell you that quick story because that's funny. It's literally Easter Sunday. And my lawyer at the time, he's also 50's lawyer, he's Eminem's lawyer, Mobb Deep, Theo, shout out to Theo Settlemeyer. Theo calls me on a Sunday, and this is when the time that 50 was in Toronto shooting Get Rich or Die Trying. And he's like, yo, 50 needs to record at your studio. And I'm like, bro, it's Easter Sunday. What are you talking about? He's like, yo, 50 wants to come to your house and record. I'm like, word? I'm like, all right. So, anyways, like 2 hours later, like three black SUVs show up or whatever. And, you know, what I mean, and I'm still living in the hood at the time, you know what I mean? I'm at Oakwood and Vaughn, and 50 just hops out and he just comes and chills, you know what I mean? Chills at the crib. And, you know, whatever, like I'm recording him, you know what I'm saying? So it was just me and him, and I'm literally being the engineer at the time, and I'm recording him while he's recording all these joints. And I mean, you know, Fifth, like, I don't know, man. Fifth, like when he first came out, I remember the way that we met was he was a massive fan of Old Time Killing, believe it or not. Like he was like, "Yo, fam, like you got to teach me how you do them dance moves that you did in Old Time Killing." And I was just like, "Yo, this is bugged out." You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the biggest rapper at that time, you know what I'm saying, was really, you know, was really rocking to my music. And he's somebody who he's like, "Yo, I want to take you on tour," and I'm like, "All right, whatever." Again, like people just say whatever in the industry, but yo, he literally took me on tour. You know what I'm saying? Like when it was time, he called us up, and he's like, "Yo, I want you to, you know, I want you to open up for me." And it was me and Rihanna that was opening up for him. You know what I'm saying? So that was fire.
Crazy. Was that the day you guys did Officer Down?
Officer Down was actually his joint, but he never finished it.
Hmm.
So what I did was I just, to be honest, I just jacked that. You know what I'm saying? I just jacked it and I put my verses on it, and then I put it out on I think it was on that Black on the Kill Blood Clot Bill mixtape.
Word,
Yeah.
man. So he never came at you? Like, did you ask him, like, can I put this on?
Nah, nah. That's the homie, yo. That's the homie. Like you gotta
Word.
understand, like this time, like 50, you know what I mean? Like 50 is my guy, but also like I'm doing mixtapes with I lie. It was on the Canadian Coke. It was Who Kid. It was Who Kid. Because me and Who Kid, we did a couple mixtapes, you know what I'm saying? So was it Canadian Coke or was it another one?
Is that the
Them
one with
time
the T Dot Chambers on? It was you, Socrates, and Shaw Claire on that Jizza beat. I think that was
might be.
Canadian Coke.
Might be. Like to be honest, like yo, I was on so many mixtapes, like at that time, like yo, bro, like anybody you can think of, like Clinton Sparks, Mick Boogie, friggin' yo, there was so many Green Lantern, Who Kid, Static Selector, yo, so many people, you know what I'm saying? Like I used to do so many verses like all the time, do so many mixtapes. So honestly, not even on some whatever stuff, but it's like sometimes it's hard to remember like what you did for who, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, he never came at me at all, you know what I'm saying? No, not at all.
Word, man. It's crazy to hear you saying, you know, like on 2006, you were on tour and you were broke, and 50 coming after Old Time Killing, and you're still living in the hood. Like, to me, looking up to you as a kid, like after Old Time Killing and like Bacardi Slang, in my mind, I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, this guy's rich. You know what I mean? But sometimes people don't always realize like how long
well
it
here
actually takes. Like,
well here's the thing though. Old Time Killing time I did have bread. You know what I'm saying? I definitely had dough. But what had happened is like again, I didn't have anybody to tell me like maybe how to invest it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, we were tricking off on dumb stuff at the time. So
yeah,
yeah, I definitely, you know what I'm saying? No, I definitely had bread. And not that I'm ashamed, because the thing is, like, I've met a lot of our favorite MCs that have like made 100 times more money than me, gone broke, but made it back. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, and remember, broke is relative. You know what I'm saying? Like for some people, 50 grand in the bank is broke. For some people, 5 grand in the bank is broke, or even 500. So, you know, at that time in particular, when I was in between situations, yeah, money was definitely low. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like sometimes, especially when things are going so dope, you keep spending, not knowing that it's like, yo, you got to learn to invest and put some stuff away for a rainy day. But bro, like when you're in your 20s or whatever, you're just like, yo, whatever, family, yo, let's fly here, let's do this, let's, you know, buy a bunch of stuff that you don't actually need. So I think what's dope right now is what I see that I really love about this generation coming up is I think that they've been schooled a lot more to do things way smarter with their money. You know what I'm saying? And I see a lot of cats diversifying. I see a lot of cats getting some good advice from, from financial advisors, from, other MCs that figured it out, stuff like that. So trust me, I wish I had that when I was younger. But the dope thing, like I said, God is good. You know what I'm saying? And after, I think sometimes you appreciate money more when you go through a period of not having it. So, after when we did Dangerous and all of that, like, what I'm saying, that's the first time that I ever, to be honest, that's the first time in my career I got to see real dough. Because the other thing is that I was an underground MC. So even though, Old Time Killing and Bacardi Slang and a bunch of other things that had me going around the world doing a bunch of different things, it's not like I had a mainstream crossover success. So I was still doing all the Grammy clubs, you know what I'm saying? Although we were traveling the world, I was still out there spitting, you know what I'm saying? White tee, do-rag, baggy jeans, you know what I'm saying? Like
Word.
that, you know what I'm saying? That was the vibe. So I mean, it also didn't afford me the opportunity to do some of those bigger, you know what I mean, those bigger venues, or get in the position to make maybe, some of the money that I would have liked to have seen at that time.
Word. Speaking of the do-rag, the white tee, and you spitting, a Canadian classic, man, Northern Touch. Is it true you weren't even supposed to be on that originally?
I still remember the day, bro. It was summertime, and it was one of the first times that I ever had a crazy allergic reaction, and like I was sneezing like 200 times a day. So I literally would just like do like old Red Man styles and just stuff the tissue up my nose. You know what I'm saying? So I remember I got a call from Saul G's like, yo, we all at this studio downtown in Toronto. We're working on this song, yo, like, can you come down and whatever? And I was like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like I came down and in there was Chaclair, Thrust. Who else was in there at the time?
Checkmate.
I don't know if Checkmate was in Toronto at the time. He might have done his part in the West, but
Okay.
I just remember they were looking for a hook, and I remember Chaclair started it off like he was a massive Biggie fan at the time. So I think that's where the notorious part came from. I remember him saying like, "We notorious," like that's all he had. And I remember I was like, hold on, we notorious, but and just what I mean, like the hook just came out, and literally like I went in there, like tissue in my nose and all that, went into the booth and recorded it one time, and we're like, yeah, that's dope. Now here's the thing: at the time, we didn't know what it was for. Meaning, like, it's not like we knew, like, yo, we're making this national anthem for the country or whatever. Like, it was just, I think, to be honest, it was for some mixtape that they were doing. And I was like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So eventually, like, that song was made, and we didn't actually know where it was going for a long time after that. You know what I'm saying? So by the time that I still remember Common came here to do a show, and after Common show was done, I remember, I think it was Chemo that was like, yo, I just got the test pressing of the vinyl for Northern Touch. I'm like, dope. And I remember they put it on, and I was like, yo, like just hearing it for the first time, like I'll always remember that. It was literally right after the Common show, and we played it in the club, and it sounded crazy. Like it just sounded wild. And, to be honest, that was a real first for a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Like it was the first time that I was ever on BET, you know what I'm saying, was with Northern Touch, and seeing our joint come on Rap City and all that. But then also it was the first time that I think people from not as far east as you guys, but like the East Coast and the West Coast got together, you know what I'm saying, like in Canada, and did a collab joint. And it's like, I remember literally like, we performed everywhere from PEI to Victoria, you know what I'm saying, all sold out shows. And man, that was such a magical time, because I've never seen Canadians react to their own the way that they did with us. Like that used to be something that was just reserved for international acts. You know what I'm saying? And I thought it was such a wild time. You know what I'm saying? To be able to go out there and really see for the first time like real patriotism for hip hop, and for hip hop that came from, you know, the country that we came from. And you know, that was really a super pivotal moment for Canadian hip hop, because it showed that like it's not just a little one off here, like, you know, Chaos over here, Choclair over here, or whomever. It was a time where we all came together and people are like, nah, like this time is now, you know what I'm saying? Like this is what it's all about.
Word, being like the patriotism level that you just spoke about, and how it just everyone was so proud of it. What was the sentiment when only a year later DMX Get At Me Dog comes out with almost the exact same sample and same beat? Like, is that coincidence, or like were you guys like, what the fuck at the time? Like,
You
what was
know
the
what?
feeling in that moment? Like,
Uh I'm doing real bad as an MC right now, because was it Guru that said you don't own no loops?
I'm not
I'm
sure.
pretty sure it was Guru. I'm pretty sure it was Guru that said he don't own no loops. I don't understand the rhyme style troop. Anyways, the point is we sampled the same way that those guys sampled. You know what I'm saying? In the same way, we weren't the first ones to use it ever, but I mean, it's just one of those ones where it's like, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes the same sample gets used. You know what I'm saying? And there's not much that you can do about that. And like to take it way back, I remember Big Daddy Kane and Michie Me used the same sample around the same time. Michie Me had a joint called On This Mic, and Big Daddy Kane used it for the Wrath of Kane. So that's been happening. You know what I'm saying?
It's weird
Sometimes,
that it happens the same times, like Nas, Street Dreams, and Tupac, All Eyes on Me, like pretty much the same year. It's
mm-hmm.
strange how that happens like the same time.
It happens sometimes, bro. You know what I mean? Like there are specific instances, like, you know, Rascals when they use Barrington Levy, and when
Candy
Shine used Barrington
movie star.
Levy.
No.
No. Rascals one was in New York they want me, and I'm gonna be there
Oh
spreading the
yeah.
vibe all over the world. So that joint, they had it first, but at that time, Saul G, he used to work in the States at a label where Puff was. I think, did he used to work directly for Bad Boy, or did he work? He might have worked for BMG that distributed Bad Boy. Either way, as the rumor would have it, as the rumor would have it,
Disclaimer.
you know, Diddy heard that joint and was like, yo, who is this singing that hook? You know what I'm saying? And contacted him so that Barrington could be on that Shine joint. So, you know, sometimes that happens too, to where people are like, yeah, that's ill. I'm gonna do that for myself. You know what I'm saying? So, but you know, shout out to the Rascals, you know what I mean? Like, you know, 2/3 of them being Caribbean, you know what I'm saying? It was just something that came naturally to them. And if you know, Red One being Antiguan, he's a big dancehall fan. So that was one of his dreams, is to put Barrington on a joint. You know what I'm saying? So the Rascals definitely had Barrington on that joint before Shine did. Shout out to Shine, because that was an incredible classic. But you know what I'm saying? Like the truth is the truth, and the Rascals had it first.
Even the movie star, and then with Keith Murray, Candy Bar. I remember that shit happening too. Do you
Oh
remember,
yeah,
Sheila?
yeah,
You
yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah, 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 yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But you know, it's hip hop. It is what it is.
No doubt, man. Yo, man, I think fuck, it cuts off after an hour. There's so much I'm trying to squeeze in right now, man. But um, yeah, I know you're A&R now with Universal. But I know you're an artist at heart, and I know you, like you said, you're a strategic person. So I know it's just not another position for you. Is there like a long-term plan? You being there, like maybe you're gonna change something. Like, do you have a goal to maybe like change the landscape for younger artists, or you know what I mean? Like, what is your goal? Because you see nowadays, like Chance the Rapper, I seen the other day, he's like, never give away your publishing, never give away your masters. Jay even has lines like, "Why are we signing deals?" Like, is there still a point to young artists signing deals, you being the A&R, and what is your plan, you know what I mean, moving forward with the bigger picture of the infrastructure?
I mean, all that stuff is, I think all that stuff is, at the core of everything is education. Let me put it that way. At the core of everything is education. And it's all about the way in which you use your resources to propel your career forward. So if you're going in there not reading your contracts or not being properly advised or you not having a long-term plan yourself, a lot of times we, and I'm just trying to speak for everybody as a creative, would blame everybody else except ourselves. But at the end of the day, it's not like anybody went back and changed the contracts. Like, it's the same contract that you signed. So sometimes people get like, they get dumb pissed at the label or whatever, but the label didn't force us to sign anything. And I think in terms of me, when I work with artists, being a creative, I know what it's like to be on the other side. And, I'm still, there's an album that's going to come out, what I'm saying, this year. So I'm still recording. I'm still very much, part of it. I'm just being quiet because, like you said, I'm strategic. I don't like just saying everything. I rather just have it ready and just let it off like a machine gun. But I think what I do is I'm very honest with every single artist that I'm interested in, every artist that I work with, every artist that I sign. And I think education is really the key because a lot of people, and I'm not taking anything away from people that say those type of things, like I was told to hold on to your publishing and, to leverage as much as you can. But at the same time, Jay-Z and those guys, they did a lot of partnerships with labels until they were able to get on their feet. They maybe didn't sign away their entire life, but they definitely did partnerships. I'm not going to speak for whatever Chance the Rapper is doing or not doing behind closed doors with his business, but a lot of us, we may not necessarily sign in the traditional old school conventional way, but there are a lot of different partnerships that people are doing with the labels or other corporations. And I think as long as you are intelligent and as long as you read your contracts, you negotiate and you understand your value and your worth, then you can't blame and you won't blame somebody else for whatever situation you get yourself into. I know when it comes to me, that's the part of the advantage is being a creative. It's kind of like the artist whisperer, to where I can speak the language and let people know what it is, because I think it's very important to be able to work with big business, whether it's a label, whether it's a brand or any other partnership that you do. You got to know what it is that you're getting into. You know what I'm saying? And we got to stop as artists playing the blame game. I see a lot of artists right now talking about, yo, I signed this deal, blah, blah, blah. Like, stop, period, after I signed this deal. That means you need to get a better manager, a better lawyer, or just a better self-awareness. You know what I'm saying? Because I think once you really understand what it is that you're doing, you can't place the blame on anybody else except yourself, really.
Word, man. That makes a lot of sense. Nah, that's true, man. That's good advice.
Mm-hmm.
You said you spoke about being very quiet and you never really, you never really say anything until it's ready. But can you tell us what the unreleased song is you have with the Flintstone sample? What's the Flintstone sample?
Bah! That's hilarious. That is from a demo. It's from a demo that I used to actually get my first deal. Yeah. So I sampled the Flintstones. That's one of my favorite. Yo, that's wild. How do you even know about the Flintstones joint?
Man, it's the tap in. We got to be tapped in, bro.
Yeah, that is something. That joint is something crazy that I have on like a DAT tape collecting dust somewhere. But nah, that's a ill joint. Like, to be honest, I started producing because I just couldn't afford to buy people's beats back in the day. So that's how I started producing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yeah, that was one of the joints that I used. That was part of my package that we sent to the labels at the time to get a deal.
Speaking of producing, you made one of the illest beats in Canadian history, in my opinion. Let's Ride for Chauclair. What made you
Mm.
not be like, I'm taking this for myself? Like, what, you know what I mean? Did that ever cross your mind? Like, this shit is so dope. I gotta.
Nah, because it's like, yo, we were family, you know what I'm saying? So we used to do that at the studio all the time. Like, we'd go through the studio, that beat I made, on the ASR 10 in my bedroom. and it was one of the beats that I brought to studio. You know what I'm saying? And I played it, and Choclair was like, "Yo, I wanna try and do a song over that." I'm like, "Yo, word, go ahead," because that's the thing is like I might lose that beat to Choclair, but Socrates might come through with something ill where I'm like, "Yo, Sox, I need that joint." You know what I'm saying? Like that's just how we move. Because I produced, Marvel produced, Solitaire produced. Um, Socrates produced, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we had a lot of beats in the camp. So it was never something like we were never afraid, you know what I mean, to like give one of the beats to the homies because, one of the other homies would give us something that we could rock to.
Word, it just comes back around. Yo, it's gonna kick us off here, man. I gotta exit it so it saves. I don't know if you want to come back on and just wrap up. There's a couple more things I'd like to do. If you're
Yeah,
busy,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool. You know what I
Everybody
mean?
that's on right now,
Come right back.
come right back for sure.
Okay. Word, man. Thanks for coming back on, man.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Man, there's so many stories. Like I can't combine them all. We'd be here for days. Like I can't get them all, but there's a couple, man. So when you made Belly Dancer, I remember that came out. Like I remember hearing that when that came out. And
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know. With Pharrell, you guys created a sound that he later used for like songs with him and Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake. What can you tell us about the Belly Dancer song? Like how did that all go and come about?
Well, he wanted to produce a joint for me, and of course I was like, yes, what do you mean? Like, of course. And it was yo, there's so many stories I have, bro, but like, so I remember like, yo, you're now getting your shot, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna be able to go to studio with Pharrell. I'm like, dope. So we went to studio in New York, and I remember there was a girl there, and I know it sounds crazy, but like when I'm in my zone, I don't like distraction. Some people like to have, chicks in the studio, creates a vibe, a party vibe or whatever. But like when I'm in studio, I'm focused, like laser sharp, because to be honest, like most of the time when I record at my own studio and I'm completely by myself. So I remember there was a girl there, but I was like, whatever, wasn't paying attention. So anyways, it's interesting because I loved the beat, but it's like Pharrell had this other vision for it. Like I wanted it to be raw, like grinding, so I could just like just dismantle it. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, nah, like I want you to do like your dancehall thing and blah blah blah. And I was like, fam, I only like, this is my one shot, you know what I mean, or my first shot to do a joint with Pharrell. I want to rap, like I want to kill it. And I remember at the time, he literally jumped on top of the table. He's like, "Cardi, you gotta trust me. I shape the sound of this new pop era with Justin Timberlake and this and that and blah blah blah. You gotta trust me." And it's like at the time, I'm like, "All right, P, like you know what I'm saying? Like, what can you really say?" Like he literally was shaping the sound of music. Like I think the Neptunes at one point in time had something stupid like 60% of all the music that was coming out in that year. Like they had produced for everybody. So I'm like, all right. So I'm in there, I'm writing my joint. And it was funny because he was like, yo, he came up with the hook, the belly dancer joint. And he's like, yo, who inspired me. And when I finally like paid attention to who the girl was in the studio, it was Naomi Campbell. So you know what I'm saying? So I'm here pissed like, yo, this guy just brought some random thing to the studio. Meanwhile, it's frigging one of the most beautiful superstar models in the entire planet. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, yeah. So we did that joint, and I was still on the fence because as an MC, like I wanted to rip, but also I also wanted to listen to one of the greatest producers in the entire world of our generation. So it's interesting because that video that we shot was probably the most expensive video that I ever shot, and it actually never came out. Like what I'm saying, like we had to scrap it. And what's interesting is that song was very polarizing. Either you loved it or you hated it. And what was dope for me was my real entry into becoming a part of the culture in the UK started because of that joint. because what happened was over there, they actually liked it. And I remember there was a pop group from over there. I'd never heard of them in my life, but there was a group called
Texas?
Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had actually asked me to be on their next single. Now, at the time, they had sold 25 million records. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and the album before, their lead single also had a rapper. So the album they did before, Method Man was the guy that they got to be on their lead single. So for this album, they wanted me to be on their lead single. And I remember, that was the first time I was ever on private jets. You know what I'm saying? That was the first time, we were doing, like Top of the Pops and like all these crazy, like mainstream looks at the time over in the UK. And I was spending a lot of time over there. It was a song called, for everybody that's out there that's watching, it's a song called Carnival Girl. So you could go and Google that. But I remember that was the first time that like I spent a lot of time in the UK and, really started digging their culture, you know what I'm saying? And like what they were doing over there and, started doing, collaborations with people, you know what I mean? Like it was a really dope time. But that all happened literally because I did that joint with Pharrell.
Wow, that's crazy. Man, the UK reminds me of Toronto, like a lot of the same slang, a lot of the same
Mm-hmm.
dialect.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems only natural, for UK and Toronto to work so well together.
Mm-hmm. The first time I went there was in it was either 99 or 2000. I went to perform with the Rascals at the Jazz Cafe. So I think it was myself, Barrington Levy, the Rascals, and I don't know, I can't remember who else was there, but yeah, that was my first time being in the UK was with them.
Word. Man, I remember when I first heard you, like the thing that stood out to me was like just the delivery, the energy, and the iconic ad libs that we all know today, man.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to listen to some of your older joints like Naughty Dread and some of the earlier ones. The iconic ad libs weren't there yet. Like, do you remember when
No,
it
no,
was
no.
when the ad libs like came? Like, you know what I mean?
It wasn't like there were different things. Like back then the ad libs we used to do it strictly in live shows. You know what I'm saying? So like we had one of the first ones I remember that stuck was we had the clack clack reload. So we would always make the crowd say the reload part. So we would say clack clack and the whole crowd would say reload. Like that was our thing. So it wasn't until that stuff started like catching and really working and I was like, yo, like, we can have fun with this, you know what I mean? And I think what was happening was in music, there was a lot of different people from, Pete Rock is obviously famous for having his whisper ad libs, you know what I mean? Like just softly in the back during the Pete Rock and CL. Of course, Puff at those times had a lot of ad libs. But then even if you look at people like Missy Elliott, you know what I'm saying? Like Missy used to have the ill ad libs back in the day. And I think for me, always just being kind of an animated character, like it just became a natural thing because all those ad libs, that was the shit that we just used to do in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just shit we would do at parties or at barbecues or blockos or whatever. So I think for me, it was really always just about trying to put my experience and my culture into the music as much as possible. Because when people are, attracted to the vibes that I have in my music, what they're really attracted to is my neighborhood or my city and that type of energy. Because a lot of people are like, yo, like, why didn't you ever move, you know what I'm saying, and go live in the States? And to be honest, when I first got signed, I did have a crib in New York. We had a brownstone in New York. And we also had we had a place up here. So I used to split my time. But like living in New York, I love New York City, but it was the worst in terms of parking. Every day, like we'd have to get up by 9 o'clock because if you left your whip out on the street past 9, you would get a ticket. And it's like, yo, bro, you don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of dollars I would spend just getting tickets because we go to studio, come home at like 5, 6 in the morning. Mans doesn't want to wake up, you know what I mean, to go move the car and drive around the block at 9 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just some straight New York stuff, you know what I mean? When it comes to Brooklyn, shout out to Brooklyn, because that's where the brownstone was. But, I love New York and I lived there for about a year and a half, back and forth between New York and Toronto. But For me, nah, like the vibes that informed my music and that, just kept that energy up was Toronto because, shouts out to Toronto now. It's a beautiful place still, but like vibes is way different. Like when I was coming up, when we were younger, like, yo, I'm being completely honest. Like I am very, very happy that I made it to see these ages. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, yo, some of the hip hop venues that were in Toronto were mad dangerous, yo, to be honest. Like a lot of people got shot, people lost their lives, people got stabbed, people got robbed. Like the city was not like how it is now. Like, there's still a lot of violence happening here, but I'm talking about like you got to understand like whenever any hip hop act came, like you had to go to Party Center, you had to go to Concert Hall, to Spectrum, to all these different, you know what I mean, all these different places. And the energy though like was unmatched, you know what I'm saying? Like even though like, it was wild and you had to make sure and go with your crew and you know what I mean? Like it was just a different vibe. Like now I remember there was a time where it's like I didn't really go out here for a while and I went back and I was like, yo, this is interesting, you know what I'm saying? Like because it's like how do I say this without being disrespectful, but it's just a certain people are cut from a different cloth, you know what I mean? So it's like we definitely during my time, my era, we had to move like, Gangstar made the song Code of the Streets because it was a real thing. Like coming up, there was a real code of the streets that we had to abide by. And it's like, me living in a few different neighborhoods in the city, like, between Flemo, going to Scarborough, coming back to Oakwood and Vaughan, you know what I'm saying? Like you had to move a certain way. You know what I mean? You can't live in the neighborhood and just walk around like Wasi, you know what I mean? Like you had to know really what it was and double down on that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like going out to the clubs at that time, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's, you going to Focus or any one of them clubs. So I don't know, like the vibes though were just so ill, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's why to this day, a lot of my friends are DJs because what I used to do when my friends were DJing is I just go into the booth and I just observe. You know what I'm saying? Like I just see what moved the crowd. And I used to see what people like the vibe. Like there's a difference between people that are just enjoying themselves at a club or a show and people where you can see their spirit is moved, like they're having some kind of just experience that you can see they're going to remember that for a while. And I think for me, that's why I always loved, Toronto DJs, because to be honest, we were some of the most versatile DJs in the world because we could play hip hop, but we didn't just play hip hop like East Coast hip hop that was prevalent. We used to play East Coast hip hop, Southern hip hop, West Coast, but then we'd also throw dance hall in there, slow jams, soca. Like we had so many different things that we used to play in the party. So it's like when it comes to music and music education, like coming up in Toronto, like we knew about everything, you know what I'm saying? Like from rock music to everything in between. Like we were super, 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 no pun intended, but we were super official when it came to that. So, I think it's really that vibe that made, some of my music the way that it is, but definitely the vibes though, definitely the vibes. Like there was no better place to be, than Toronto. You gotta like, I remember the other day I was talking to Lil Jon when Chappelle had his thing at Radio City Music Hall, and he's like, "Yo, Cardi, yo, do you remember when we did Circa? Like, I think there was like 4,000 people in that club, but there was another 4,000 outside in the street trying to get in." And it's like I remember them times, like, yo, me and Lil Jon, like, yo, the walls were sweating, like the club felt like it was about to fall down because people were East Coast ATL stomping and just like wilding out in the club at the time. And it's like, yo, we had some super legendary times within the city, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's because of those things, like people are like, yo, like you're always repping for Toronto. Like as long as I can think about you, you always had Toronto on your back. And I think it's because I've had some of the best experiences in my entire life coming from Toronto.
Word, man. Speaking of Toronto and the vibes, it's no secret you guys got your own dialect, your own vibes. Some of the shit I'm pretty good at catching on to most of it. Some of the shit I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but There's one thing I want to ask you. I guess it's a term, I'm not sure what it is, but a banana bullet. What is a banana bullet?
Ah, the bullet. That was something that we discovered on our first tour, bro. Our first tour that we went across Canada. That was 19.
It's not Toronto dialect, is it?
No, not at all. That was
Okay.
something from the crew. 1996, we went on a Socrates tour. Myself, Solitaire, Marvel, Socrates. Shout out to road manager Super G. And we literally drove a church van from here all the way to Victoria and back. And I remember our show at Richards on Richards. I think that closed down, but our first show in Vancouver was Richards on Richards, and there was about 12 people there, bro. You know what I'm saying? It was whack. Like I remember there was like an old couple that came in and they were like ballroom dancing, and we're just like, yo, what is this, bro? Like, yo, we're trash. It's a failure. You know what I'm saying? But I remember, we went to the bar. Super G, like I said, have good management, man. Super G was like, yo, he's like, yo, don't worry about it, man. You know what I mean? Like, not every show is gonna be, packed and sold out in an adventure. So we looked on the menu, and there was this drink, and the drink had Bailey's, banana ramazzotti, and rum. And we were like, we had that drink, and of course we got twists, but we were like, yo, like I can't even remember what the name of the drink was, but we just called it the banana bullet. You know what I'm saying? And it's wild. Like we even had a random like banana bullet song that we would sing in the dressing room, or what we used to do up here in Ontario is like we used to rent these cabins up in Collingwood. So what we do is we get these cabins literally that could fit like 30 people. You know what I'm saying? And like it would be about 10 guys or 12 guys, and we'd invite up like 20 girls, and we'd literally be there from like Friday to Sunday. And like we literally would have like indoctrinations to where like anybody that was there, everybody had to drink the banana bullet. You know what I'm saying? So Bullet was like the tour special for many years. And it got crazy because one time we were in Boston, I think, and originally you were just supposed to use regular rum. But I remember they went out and they got us Ray and Nephew. And like the drink just kept getting more potent and more potent, you know what I'm saying? Until we had to retire it one year. But yeah, man, banana bullet, yo, it's a crazy drink. So if you ever get those ingredients, trust me, try it.
So what is it? Tell the people what is it, because I want to try it, man.
The original banana bullet. Oh, I know what it was. We just stopped drinking Bailey's because we were like, it's for pussies. But it was it was Bailey's, banana liqueur, and rum.
Bailey, okay.
Yeah.
So these cabins you spoke of, was that where you guys shot the Shaw Claire Light It Up video?
No, but that's kind of where we got the idea from, though.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
that looked like the funnest video ever, man.
Yeah. Oh, that was mad fun. Like on what are they called on the not Sea-Doos. Those are the jet skis. What are they? Snowmobiles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We were on the snowmobiles. Yo, we had mad fun. Yo, that was super dope. But that was in the winter time though. These time when we used to go to the cabins, most of the time it was summer. Sometimes in the winter there was some cabins that we used to go to. Shout out to anybody that knows about all those dope cabins out in Peterborough. But yeah, that was our thing, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like we used to get the whole crew. You know what I mean? Make sure we had some either your girl or females up there, and we used to have a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole crew. That's what we would do. Like we wouldn't necessarily. To be honest, I don't even think we had the dough to do it at that time, but. Yeah, like, we wouldn't necessarily like go on trips to Paris or all that kind of stuff until much later, you know what I mean? So them times like that's what we used to do, yo, and it was dope. Everybody would just barbecue, drink and smoke and swim and play ball and everything else that comes after dark. So that's what we used to do back in the day.
I remember the first time seeing that video, bro. I think I was in junior high, and I don't know if you remember when they had MuchMusic video dances. So we had like the dance would have like the videos, and I remember, bro, they used to play all your guys' shit, Light Up. They played some Bishop shit. They were playing like it's like I grew up off this shit, so I seen a lot of it at the Much Music video dances. For anybody that remembers that shit.
Oh man, I was gonna say I feel bad for you because your school actually had a Much Music dance party. Oh man, no, shout out to Much Music dance parties. People don't understand, like, I'm not gonna lie, yo. Like I honestly miss those days, bro. Of like Much Music was such a place of musical discovery. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the illest MCs ever in life, you know what I mean, all made their way through that Much Music space at one point in time. And you know, it's unfortunate like what it has become. But I mean, coming up, like, you know, being able to perform on Rap City, or being able to perform when Master T had Extend the Mix, that later on became the Mix, or you know, even what they used to call it, Much on Demand on Fridays. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like all of that stuff, like everybody from Lauryn Hill, Cameron, you know, the Roots, anybody you could think of, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody made their way through Much Music at one point in time. So those days were also amazing because it also gave us a platform for people to discover hip hop that came from here. You know what I'm saying? Like, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of platforms anymore, you know what I'm saying, for like for people to be discovered in a massive way. Because I think without getting too technical, we had a lot of what they used to call monocultural experiences, meaning that like we knew like, yo, like if Quake was gonna be on Rap City on Friday, everybody's gonna tune in at the same time. So we literally like would all watch it at the same time, and then after it's done, you know, call up the homies like, yo, did you see it? Blah blah blah. Like everybody had that experience at the same time, and I think that's part of what helps to form culture, you know what I'm saying? And we still have those experiences from time to time, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, certain artists of certain caliber, like if they're like, yo, my album's coming out, you know, tonight at 12, yeah, we still get to, you know what I mean, stream it when it comes out at 12. But you know, there's just certain experiences, like even being I was actually one of those fans that used to go down to Much Music, you know what I'm saying, to stand outside of the building hoping that I could get in to be a part of the studio audience, you know what I'm saying? Like even those type of things, like I miss those days because that's part of what gives you a love for something, you know what I'm saying, is like really by all means, like by any means necessary, you know what I'm saying, lying to my mom saying I'm going someplace just so I could go, you know what I'm saying, to be a part of the culture. Like that's just what it is. It's almost like a rite of passage. You know what I mean?
Word, I never thought of that. Even with TV shows now, it's all on demand, so we're not really experiencing it at the same time.
Nah.
I never really thought of that, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yep.
Um,
Even we had Electric Circus. You know what I'm saying? Which a lot of the times was corny with like dance music or whatever. But there was the odd time that like somebody ill used to come through Electric Circus and perform. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember. Tragedy singing "Arrest the President" on Electric Circus. Like, are you crazy? Like, yo, just wild stuff. You know what I mean? I still remember. Yo, there's just so many things that that I remember just being a young cat and watching Much Music and me being like, yo, I want to be that guy one day. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, a lot of dope MCs, a lot of dope history was made on Much Music. So shout out to Michael Williams, Master T, and everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Word, man. A couple more questions. We won't keep you, man. When we look at greats, sometimes there's like two lanes. Like sometimes greats, like just say Eminem, he'll pour all of his personal life out there. Like we know his daughter's Haley, his mom's Debbie, his wife's whatever. And then there's greats like say a Busta Rhymes or a Redman who kind of keep their private life private and the music is separate. I feel like
Hmm.
you kind of lean towards the Busta Redman side more so. Is that a conscious decision? Like you don't want to put all your business out there for people? Will we ever get a Cardinal project where it's like you spill it all, or do you prefer to keep it separate like that?
Ah, I don't know. I think we live in a time right now, bro, where it's like once you put it out there, there's no There's no taking it back. You know what I'm saying? Like things will, if you think music lives forever, like you say one thing, even if it's a mistake, and like people will screenshot it, they'll record it, they'll whatever. And I think, for me, I've always had to have a layer of privacy. Even when social media came out, like people that remember me on socials, like I used to diss it, bro. Like I never used to understand like what it was. So, I remember when Twitter came out and I didn't even understand the concept. I was like, yo, I used to hear Busta and Swiss talking back and forth on Twitter. And I used to be like, why are they telling everybody what they're doing? Like, it was a weird thing to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't come from that. And I think also, probably because I was still living in the neighborhood, you don't necessarily want everybody knowing what you're doing or what you
True.
have or where you're going. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just recipe for a setup. So, I mean, just even in terms of, again, like the code of the streets, it was never, we never used to broadcast our business out there like that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm one of those people, like, don't get it twisted. I'm not a street guy, like, you know what I mean? Like I was selling drugs or this, that, and the next thing. But the thing is, like, my immediate circle of people, yes, they were. So it's like I just came up around people to where it's like we just moved a certain kind of way because that's just how you moved around the city. So I never was one to really embrace it until I understood how I could use it, to use it the way that I wanted to use it. You know what I mean? And I think even till now, to where some people will kind of do anything to get followers and all the rest of that stuff. Like, to me, I'm good, yo. Like, I look at somebody like somebody that I call a friend, like Dave Chappelle, who's one of the biggest entertainers on the planet. He doesn't have social media. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people talk about its importance, but I think it's a decision that everybody makes. And I think getting back to the music, I'm sure I'm getting there. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like people like to change narratives on you, meaning you could have the full intent to be very honest, transparent, in hopes that you'll create a deeper connection with your fan base. But then you never know, like, with all these different media outlets and their clickbait, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they may just take one certain segment and make that their headline. And then all of a sudden, something that was a real experience that you had, all of a sudden it takes on a life of its own. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So, yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's always like in all my albums, if you go back, like if you, after this live is done, you go back and you listen to the albums in their entirety, I always give one or two songs where, where I'm very honest or what have you. But I think for the most part, like, the other thing is also knowing what your fan base wants from you. And I'm cool with, like, here's the thing. Sometimes we may not. You remember when Jay-Z came out with Sunshine?
Yeah.
Everybody shat
Everyone
all
hated
over
it.
him.
Yeah.
Everyone hated it. It's not that it was a bad song. It's just they didn't want to hear it from him. You know what I'm
I think
saying?
the look of it too was part of it. The look of the video and everything.
Yeah, but it's before the video though. That's the thing, is it's just like he was like, I'm not saying that Jay cannot experiment and do different things, but sometimes you got to know your fan base. Like, here's the honest truth. Even like with somebody like Drake, I hope that personally he gets to a point in his career to where it's like he'll be able to, like, talk about certain things in his music that will, like, change the lives of millions of people, because everybody on the planet is looking to him. So imagine if he was able to come out with like a real, like, super crazy uplifting song. You know what I mean? Imagine how powerful that is. But here's the thing. I don't know if chicks want to hear that from Drake. I don't know if dudes want to hear that from Drake. You know what I'm saying? Maybe his fan base wants to continue hearing the type of songs that he makes right now. So I think it's the same thing for a lot of different artists. Like, there's a lot of us that maybe there are songs that we make in the studio that we would love to release, but at the same time, it's like, do you cut off your nose to spite your face, as my mom would say? So I think when the time is right, and I think right now, because, it's a blessing to be able to be, to be older and still be in this game, meaning to like age gracefully and, still have my legacy intact. You know what I'm saying? The other day when I did Drink Champs, it was an honor when Nori was like, yo, like, I spent an hour or two trying to dig up some dirt on you. And he's like, yo, I found nothing, bro. Like, there's nothing there. And it's like, I worked hard at that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I've done songs with damn near, everybody that I ever wanted to do a song with, for the most part. So I think for me, yeah, it may not, sure, like it may not have gotten me to a certain height in terms of maybe what some other people have accomplished. But I think for me, being able to sleep well at night, knowing that my integrity is intact, knowing that I didn't, sell my soul just to make more money or to become more famous. And, anybody that knows me, like, I sleep very well and I'm never concerned, because I try my hardest to be a decent dude to everybody. To other artists, to fans, to just regular people that I see in the grocery store. And I think 95% of the time I'm successful at doing that. And I think for me, success is the ability to still be involved with your passion while providing for your family and living a full life. And I think, for me, I can't complain. Like, I have a beautiful family. I have a dope roof over my head. I've gotten to experience, bro, like incredible things. We literally could be here till 6 a.m. if I was to tell you just all the wild stories. Like, the tours, like, touring with Wyclef and Sean Paul, seeing Wyclef jump off the second floor, House of Blues, backflip onto the crowd, like, performing in the south of Spain for over 300,000 people on the beach. Like just the wildest stuff. Like I remember we were on tour in Europe and we got a call to be on, this is way back. So it was like, what was that show back in the day, the MTV show with the cameras in the house? What was it called? Like
MTV Cribs.
No. It was like the one where like all the people used to live in one house.
Big Brother.
Around that time, it's not Big Brother. It was the one like right after that. But anyway, I remember they wanted me to perform with Ron Browse in
The Real
Mexico,
World?
The Real World. And I remember it was the Real World Mexico. And I remember they had a ill spot in Mexico. And I remember they wanted me to perform. And at the time we were in Paris, but we were like, whatever, let's do it. And it's like we had to get all the way to Mexico and back to Europe in less than 48 hours, bro. The wildest trip ever, bro. Like, we were so crazy. Like, I remember we had to connect. We went from Paris to London to New York, and we had like a 3-hour window before the flight to Mexico. We left the airport. We went down to Jamaica Ave to Coliseum. We went shopping and got back to the airport in time just to catch our flight. Went to Mexico. We were there for less than 24 hours, bro. Like, I think we got there. No, we were there for 36 hours, I think, somewhere around there. But I remember, like, it was the wildest thing. Like, Flo Rida had this show at this club that had like 6,000 people. And I remember we went there and, like, I can't even tell you the things that happened on that trip, but like, we had such an amazing time. We performed, did the TV show, like did the performance for the Real World, literally stayed awake until like, I don't know, like we stayed awake, got on the flight in the morning and then made our way back to Paris. Like, and the whole thing happened in like 2 days or 2.5 days. And it's like, we've done just so many crazy things, like just around the world, like had so much fun. And to be honest, like, it's a blessing because we continue to have that fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me now, I think it's just a passion. People are like, oh, Cardi's DJing now. People don't know, like, when I was in high school, I used to DJ and make mixtapes to sell money to go to studio. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I couldn't afford studio. So what I used to do is, shout out to my man Atco, who used to live in Alexandra Park. I used to go down to Alexandra Park to the projects down there, and I used to make mixtapes. And I used to just mass produce them, and I used to sell them at high school for like 10, $20 a pop. And I used to take that money, and then I used to go to Shaw Clear's manager's studio, and that's literally like how I was able to start making, you know what I'm saying, like making my own music at that time. So I used to DJ, since I was in junior high school, till now. And I think it's just dope now that, I DJ with my crew, Celebrity Marauders, and we DJ around the world, you know what I'm saying? Europe, Caribbean, States, wherever. And, extra fuck you to coronavirus, but we were supposed to DJ at Essence Fest for the first time this year, you know what I mean, down in New Orleans. So, it's just a blessing that, I can still DJ, I can still do, you know what I mean, still do my shows, put out music and all the rest of that shit. Like, that having those opportunities, and even having just wilder opportunities, you know what I'm saying, like getting to perform with Team Chappelle, or once in a while.
I was gonna ask you, how did you meet Dave? Because I always see you with Dave, and you got, you know what I mean. But I always wondered, like, how did that meeting come about originally?
To be completely honest, shout out to my man DJ Trauma. I knew Trauma from who knows, like early 2000s or maybe even before. Anyways, here's the joke. I was on the road. I was out of the country, and I remember I get this text, and he's like, "Yo, what up? It's Trauma." I'm like, "Yo, what's good?" He's like, "Yo," he's like, "Dave wants to go out tonight. We're in town. We got shows, and Dave wants to go out tonight." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I remember it was a Monday night, and I think I sent them to like Lost and Found in Toronto or whatever. Here's the joke. I didn't know who the hell he was talking about. When he's like, Dave, I'm just like, all right, cool.
You just thought it was his boy or somebody.
Thought it was his virgin Dave. I'm like, all right, hope you and Dave have fun. But then I remember I was coming back in the city, and he's like, yo, Dave wants you to come to one of his shows. And I'm like, who's this Dave? What are you talking about? And like I went to his page. I'm like, this guy DJs for Dave. He's talking about Dave Chappelle. And I'm like, yo. So, oh man, this is a minute ago, because this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Because I'm just thinking in terms of, remember my wife was pregnant at the time. So anyways, we ended up going to one of the shows in Toronto. And I remember it was crazy because Usher ended up sitting beside me. And, I'd never met Usher before either. But anyway, after the show, like, we went, I think it was like when he had 10 sold out shows, like back to back every night at Danforth Music Hall. And I remember I went up to his dressing room. And the funny thing was, like, we just hit it off. Like, we just literally talked for like an hour and a half, 2 hours in a row. And I remember the next day he's like, yo, I'm doing this thing called the Juke Joint, you know what I'm saying, where I throw like these little private secret concerts. And he's like, yo, I would love for you to come perform with Usher. And I'm like, what? He's like, yo, like Usher's going to perform. I would love for you to perform. I'm like, hell yeah. So I remember the next day we went down to 99 Sudbury, I think was where he had the secret joint. And yeah, I mean, again, I just got up there and killed it. And he was just like, yo, like, thank you, bro. Like, I'm, like, yo, I'm such a fan. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. This is Dave Chappelle. But yo, to be honest, like since then, we just been mad cool, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like literally like a family thing, you know what I mean? And Dave and his wife and his kids and, their whole crew have really embraced my family. Like, I mean, like my wife, my children, everybody, you know what I'm saying? And it's a real family thing. So, between myself and, Cypher Sounds and D Nice and, all the other extended family that's part of Team Chappelle, like it's just a really cool crew of people that, that bonded. And I don't know, it's like being a part of like, what do they call it? A league of extraordinary gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? Like, It's one of those things. If you know Dave, like the other day when he was being honored, if you go to Netflix, he has a special now. It was, he was honored with the Mark Twain Prize, the Mark Twain Award.
What's that?
And that is it's the highest accolade you can get as a comedian. So the highest award you can get as a comedian, like it's reserved for like the best of the best. So I remember we went to Washington. He invited us down, and we went to Washington to celebrate with him. And there was this day. It was me, Syph, Thundercat, Most Def, Dave, um, who else was there, man? Corey, who manages Vince
Word up.
Staples. No, he manages Vince Staples. He used to manage De La Soul, and Talib Kweli. I think Talib might have been there too. Like, I remember, like, Dave's like, "Yo, let's go get some donuts and coffee." We're like, "All right." So imagine this whole crew of like all of us, literally just walking the streets of DC and showing up at a coffee shop, and everybody's just like, "Who the like?" You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, like what the fuck is going on?
exactly. And then after we got, what I'm saying, the coffee and donuts and stuff, we just chilled outside, like on the street, and people are just bugging. They're losing it. They're like, "Are these guys just cooling out on the street?" But that's the type of vibes, you know what I mean? It's like, although, Dave is a massive star, and so are a lot of his friends, it's, he just kind of, the way he moves is, it's like, if you're a friend of Dave, you never know, um, what kind of circle of people you're gonna be around. And I remember that was one of the best days I've ever had. Literally, we had so much fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, later on that day, like, everybody was there. Marlon Wayans, George Lopez, Erica Badu, Black Thought, Common, John Legend.
Hey,
Like, yo, it was just a wild, wild, wild time. And I think at the end of the day, like, just making this all make sense to, like, maybe some of the upcoming artists and creatives that are watching us right now, was just like, yo, man, when you try and be somebody else, you got to wake up every day thinking about how you're going to do it. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure you're doing it correctly. And when you're creating a persona, it's like you have to always be in this weird state to make sure that you catch yourself. But when you are literally doing you and just being whoever you are, you never have to think about anything. You know what I'm saying? You can just be the best version of yourself. And I think, for me, Mr. Morgan used to say it to me all the time, and I never used to understand it. Whenever we used to go into like big meetings, or we were about to meet somebody important, he was just like, "Yo, just make sure you do the Cardi thing." And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about, bro." But I later on understood that he was just saying, like, "Yo, just be yourself, bro," because people, they just love your energy, and people are really like magnetized to your vibes and your spirit and your energy. And I think, for all the creators out there, like, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never had to, make anybody think that I was the toughest dude on the block, you know what I'm saying? Because that's just not who I was. I never had to make anybody think anything that I wasn't. Like, from the first day, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understood it, like, from when I first really came out with Bacardi Slang and Old Time Killing. And I think when my music got out to the globe for the first time, the feedback was so crazy. And I was like, "Oh, this is dope." You know what I'm saying? I remember when, like, everybody from, when Pitbull, before he was the Pitbull that we know him as, like, when he used to be an underground
when he
MC,
had the braids and the beater and he was
bro,
rapping in the streets.
like, that Pitbull, like, all, like, yo, fam, like, I remember when Wu-Tang asked me to be on the official remix, you know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to, I think at the time, Big C was the one that helped that situation come to life. But I remember, like, being on Click Click, and then, later on being able to meet Method Man, and, all my heroes and all the rest of that. And it's like, what's dope is, it's like, people just love the vibes. But I'm like, yo, people don't even understand. If you look at that Old Time Killing video, and the thing that 50 loved when I was doing them random dance steps or whatever, yo, it was my boy was like, you see how IG is right now? My boy was like right there beside me the whole time. And all we were doing was just doing dance, like, just dumb dances that we used to do in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we were in Oakland and Vaughn, we were like, yo, we just got to give them us. You know what I'm saying? Like, just give them the vibes. And I think at the end of the day, that's what people will always be most attracted to. You know what I'm saying? Because there's only one Quake. Nobody else can do Quake Matthews better than Quake Matthews. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing, is that I understood what my value and my worth is. And you also have to be comfortable in your skin and understand that not everybody is going to love what you do when you do it to death. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that the people that have the most effect on culture are the people that are polarizing. There's nobody out there that has ever done anything worth talking about that some people hate and some people love. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you think about
Yeah,
anybody,
being too safe is, you know what I
mm-mm,
mean? Yeah,
it is,
high risk, high reward.
that's what it is. Like, as much as I love J. Cole, there's some people are like, J. Cole's boring. I don't like J. Cole. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Or some people, are stupid, like they're like ill Kendrick stands, but then there's some people that are like, I can't like Kendrick raps too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Some people are like, doesn't matter who you are, Jay-Z, Drake, whatever. Like, some people like absolutely love them, and some people they're like, it's not for me. And I'm sure, you know what I'm saying, that there's people that are like that when it comes to me also, but it's like, I am not for everybody, believe me. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, like, I also am learning to, not that I don't care, but learning to be all right with it. Because I think, that's when the purest forms of music comes out. That's when the purest forms of creativity come out, is when you're like, you know what, I'm going to speak my truth. And what my truth is, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And either you love it or you don't.
man, those are fucking gems, man. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Word.
Damn, man. This is some shit for everybody watching. I'm sure everybody's learned a ton. I know there's some artists in here, definitely. So, man, thank you so much from
Shout
all
out to
of us,
all the
man.
artists, yo. Shout out to all the artists, because I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, I'm also, you know what I'm saying, in the boardroom, but I think, you know, not to dwell on it too much, but part of the reason why at this point in time I am an executive is because in my own way I want to help change things so that the artists don't, that they don't have to go outside of Canada, you know what I'm saying, to get a deal that will allow them to compete with the best in America, the best in the UK, the best in France, Germany, or Japan. So, a lot of things that I'm doing quietly is going to be able to help the generations after. And I think that's part of what it means to me also to be an OG and to know yourself is like, for me, and no disrespect to anybody that's, putting on their peoples or whatever, but it's like, I want to be able to set up infrastructure in a way that after, like, when I remove myself one day down the line from, some of that corporate stuff, is that maybe the things that I initiated keep going for the other generation so that it provides opportunities. And I mean, shout out to, Zach Zoya. He's an artist from Montreal that I signed. Shout out to Emmanuel. You know what I'm saying? He just dropped last week and he's doing incredible. Big up to my man Harmony Samuels, who's out of LA. You know what I'm saying? We just did a situation with Harmony Samuels. Like, there's a lot of dope things that we're doing, I mean, a little bit, I'd say quietly now, but the cat's going to be out of the bag in a second anyway. But I mean, the moves that I'm doing right now, and, shout out to other people also from our industry here, people like Big C, that are also, making moves, and, big up to Ives and Anthony Osei and a bunch of different people that are making these executive moves. I think at the end of the day, just as long as we understand the opportunities that we have and that we're creating, is just going to make it better. And, some people may not see it now, but, for me, it's not really about the acknowledgement more than it is like, even if people don't understand that it's something that I put in motion, as long as other people get to benefit from it, that's where I get the true satisfaction. So shout out to all the creators that are in here, but also, to be completely honest, shout out to the managers, you know what I'm saying? And also some of the other executives that work within the industry, because there's no us if there's no managers as well, and there's no people to, maintain and amplify the business side of it. And I think there's a lot of people right now that are doing big moves on a lot of different levels that we may not see or understand right now. But I think a couple of years from now, that wave will grow by the time it hits the tide, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's dope, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be able to benefit from those opportunities.
Facts, man. Well, like I said, man, damn, this was the longest one yet, man. You just got so much history, and man, I thank you for everything you've done for the culture, man. And we really appreciate you coming on here, man, and sharing some wisdom. I always do this before we leave. Top 5, your favorite.
Ooh.
Maybe not. You know what I mean? Maybe not technical or skill wise. Just your personal favorite. You know what I mean?
It's kind of easy. Um, I would say Andre 3000 without question. I don't think Andre ever spit a whack verse ever,
No.
and that's going back from like Southern Playalistic. Um, you know what? Let me not say it's easy. It's not easy. Because I could rattle off a top 10 quite easily, but I say Andre. If we're saying just like, you know, for me, my personal favorites, Andre 3000, KRS-One, Busta Rhymes, uh, Jay, and I'm trying to think of that fifth. Big Daddy Kane.
Word. Man, that's a dope list, man. A versatile list too, because a lot of people say the same list. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. Like, if we're talking about lyricists, I think that's a bit easier. But if we're just talking about like all
Your
around,
favorite.
I'm just thinking about like, yo, if you know, if I could take my favorite album from each of those 5 people, I'd be good. You know what I'm saying? Lyricist, that's, you know, lyricist is something different because that's when we get into like, you know, Elzai, Eminem, you know, Black Thought, Nas. Um, you know, there's some incredible like just instant Pharaoh Monch, you know what I'm saying? But
Word, yeah.
you know, in terms of lyricists, like that's different. But yeah, I think that would be my top 5 for whatever the date is today.
No, I prefer to hear people's favorites because you know when you get into lyricists, then it's like the technical aspect. But I like to know people's personal favorites. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like for example, like Prodigy is on my top 5 list, but he might not be the most tech. He's not a Black Thought lyrically, but there's something about the vibe that just hit me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So yeah, I like to ask people's favorites for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I left duos out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you know, Mobb Deep is one of my all-time favorite groups. You know, Mobb Deep, EPMD. Um, there's so many of them, bro. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think that's a good list for today.
No word. Well, again, Cardi, man, we appreciate you tapping in, man, from the bottom of my heart, man. You didn't have to do this, and for you to take the time, man, it really is appreciated, man. So thank you, man.
No, all good, yo. This was dope, man. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah, man.
appreciate it. And it's like, you know, just very quickly, I said today, like, I'm not gonna lie. Right before I hopped on this, like I had a lot of food and I had, you know what I mean, a little bit to drink. I was like, yo, I could go to sleep right now. But I was like, nah, man. Like to be honest, like ever since I met you, yo, you've been a good dude. You know what I'm saying? Like honestly, like I love your heart, bro. So when you asked me to do it, like I didn't think twice. And that's just always the type of person that I try to be. You know what I'm saying? That's how I ended up doing, you know, songs with different people or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ask Unreal, like when we did that joint together for one of his projects a few years ago, like
I remember.
and this is no diss, but it's like I had turned him down a few times because I'm like, yo, the joint gotta be right. And I remember when we did that joint, I was like, whew, like I'm so glad that we waited for, you know, that right time. And I think, you know, when you asked me to jump on this thing and do this tonight, I was like, nah, for sure. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you've always been a good dude to me. You've always been, you know, super respectful, super humble, super thankful. And I also did my research. So I was like, yo, this is dope. You know what I'm saying? Because I think some people could really learn a lot, and hopefully, to me, even if it inspires, one person that turns out to be the next such and such. It doesn't have to be the next ill MC or the next ill singer. It could be the next ill manager, or even somebody's best friend who was like, yo, I just watched this thing with Quake and Cardi, and it inspires them to maybe encourage their friend. You never know, you know what I'm saying? Like
Word,
what
man.
waves it makes. So that's really what it's about, bro. So yo, just continue this. You know what I'm saying? Like big up. This is super dope, so big up to you, and thanks for having me on. And that's the only way that we're going to continue as a culture and as a country to really, push everything forward and amplify it, is if we keep having things like this. So you inspire me, you know what I'm saying? Like you
Word,
inspire
man.
me for real.
That means the world, man. Thank you, Cardi, man.
Absolutely, bro. Big up everybody in the East, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully after this COVID stuff, I'll be back out there to smash it down, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Salute, bro. Thank you, man.
Love, bro.